So guys, welcome to possibly the most awaited video in this channel. Today I'm going to show you guys how I film and edit my videos, and I'm also going to show you guys a couple of filming techniques and of course how I put all the footages together. And yeah, I'm also going to be talking about the lenses I use and the scenarios I use them in. This is not going to be an advanced tutorial because I will be doing them in the future, but for now, let's get it started. Now, like I said, this is not going to be an in-depth tutorial because I will be trying to cover every single aspect you need when filming a video, from shooting to the final edit. Just for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using the Sony A7 III. If you don't have an expensive camera like this, don't worry, because at the end of the day, it's all about how you see and how you capture things. Really love this camera. It gives me a lot of options. If you're thinking of buying a camera, I definitely recommend this.
First thing you want to do before shooting is checking your camera settings. I recommend you to shoot in a flat pitch profile just to keep all the dynamic range and additional information together. Since I'm a Sony camera user, I normally shoot in Cine 4 under picture profile 7. This is because it kind of works for my style of color grading. If you are a Canon user, you can set your own flat picture profile by just dropping the sharpness, contrast and saturation. I also recommend you to shoot in the highest frame rate as possible, so later on you'll have the ability to slow down the footage in post-production.
So, the most important aspect when you're creating a video is of course how you shoot it. You want to make sure the shot is well composed and ended with some sort of transition, so you can start planning the next shot. And this is also going to be helping you when you're editing the video. A couple of tips I'd like to give you when you're shooting the video is add some sort of motion to your shot. Since I have an option to go 120 frames, you're gonna get that really slow motion, slow smooth motion, and with the f1.8 you're gonna get a beautiful shallow depth of field. So another tip I'd like to give you is start the shot with some sort of transition. Either come in like that. When you're in this position, you want to make sure you're not just hitting it hard, because that's gonna look very like artificial. So you want to make sure you're coming in pretty fast, then smooth it down and then go fast again. So later on in edit you can use speed ramps to make that smooth motion. So the most common transition I use is the masking transition. Once I feel like I got the shot, what I do is I get my hand and kind of cover over it, and later in post I cut out the bottom part of my hand and use that as the next shot. So the final tip I'd like to give is to note down the type of shot you got when you're filming. This is gonna help you guys a lot when you're editing a video and creating a sequence that has a nice flow. So my current setup is gonna be the Tokina 1628 on the gimbal, and this particular gimbal is the Zion Crane, and with this gimbal you're getting a really smooth footage with no shakiness, and that's gonna help you guys tons if you really want a cinematic video. So I'm gonna show you guys a couple of footage I got from this particular setup right now. So the next lens I'm going to be talking about is the 50mm, and this is probably the lens I use most often because with the aperture of 1.8 you're getting a really beautiful shallow depth of field, and that's going to come in really handy when you're getting a close-up of people, and it could be any other objects that requires blur background, in other words. So this is my favorite lens, and it's also the cheapest lens. You're gonna find this pretty cheap in any camera store, pretty much anywhere. So now I feel like I have enough shots, so let's go back to the office where I'm gonna show you guys how I put all these footages together.
Just shorter aperture ISO को कुरा बाहेक चाहिँ cinematography मा चाहिँ हाम्रो normal आइले देख्ने कुराहरु चाहिँ जहिले पनि मान्छेको लागि बोरिङ हुन्छ के. So like average height नेपालीहरुको भनेको like 5'8". So 5'8" को पर्सपेक्टिभ हामी सधैँ देखिराख्ने पर्सपेक्टिभ हो के. So it's boring हैन. So 5'8" बाट अलिकति like stance लिएर suppose 5'2" अथवा 5 अथवा 6 भनौँ न हैन. So 6 को पर्सपेक्टिभमा गरे हेर्यो भने like कहिल्यै नदेखेको पर्सपेक्टिभ देखिन्छ के. तर मेरो फेभरेट चाहिँ like हाई भन्दा चाहिँ like लो दामी हुन्छ. मलाई मन पर्ने चाहिँ लो हो. So like ग्लाइड गर्दाखेरि पनि like त्यो जाइन उल्टो गरेर the low angle ma just perfect garna सक्यो भने like your cinematography is done.
So I'm here at the office, and the most common question I get asked is what editing software do I use? And the answer to that is I use Final Cut Pro for my basic editing, Adobe After Effects for my visual effects, and Photoshop and Lightroom for my photos. And you're probably wondering why I use Final Cut Pro over Premiere. Since Final Cut Pro is an Apple developed software, it just runs extremely smooth on my Mac. And if you're wondering what laptop I use the MacBook Pro mid 2015 with the Retina display. Don't get me wrong, I still use Premiere Pro every now and then, but I just prefer the interface of Final Cut Pro. It just looks extremely user friendly. But from my experience and what I've learned is pretty much every single editing software kind of functions the same. And I've pretty much given so much time when learning Final Cut, I don't want to go and switch into another editing software right now. Okay, so let's make a new event, and just for the sake of this video I'm going to call it Cinematic Tutorial. And the settings are 1080p. Yep, everything is good, and hit OK. So let's import some footage. So go to import media. So I'm going to select a couple of clips I got from my recent photo walk around Kathmandu, and yeah, we're just gonna take it from there. So I've selected all the clips I possibly need. Now I'm gonna put them in a timeline where I'm gonna show you guys how I make them look cinematic. So I'm not gonna really talk about how you can create a sequence. I'm strictly gonna focus on how to make your footage look cinematic. And don't worry, because I still have a couple of more tutorials coming out soon about how you can create a sequence and visually tell story. So I have all the footage imported into the timeline, and the first thing is first, you wanna find the right music, and this is probably the most trickiest part for me as a filmmaker, and I'm sure pretty much all the other filmmakers can relate to that. And I personally use Epidemic Sound for all my music, and let me tell you guys, it has made my life so much easier. I don't have to search all over the internet for right music, right sound effects. It's all in there, all in that website, and if you can afford it, please do get it, and you're not going to have any issues with copyright if you use music from there. So what I'm gonna do now is pretty much change the speed to around 30%. It's playing at such a smooth pace, and it's really making the most out of those 120 frames that you shot originally. So first things first, I'm gonna apply some color correction before I start grading this footage. And I wanna kind of create a warm, friendly type of look in my video, and how I can achieve that is by increasing the temperature and by increasing the saturation of midtone slightly and shifting the color to slight oranges, bringing the shadows to kind of blue. This is gonna really lift up those skin tones. So normally what I like to do is kind of lift the midtone slightly, so you want to give it a slight crush to the shadows just to bring up those contrasts. That looks pretty good, and let's see before and after. As you can see, we've kind of created this warm tone in his face, and that's gonna look really nice when you color grade the footage. So for this particular shot, I want a pretty similar look. I'm gonna open up the color panel again and bring up the temperature slightly. You don't want to do it too much because it's gonna look too yellowish. Bring the shadows to kind of bluish, midtones to orange-ish, and just lift the saturation of midtones slightly. Bring up the midtones a little bit and crush the shadows slightly, and don't do anything to the highlights. So as you can see from the before and after, we've kind of gone for the similar look, and we want to make sure the look is kind of consistent. You don't want one shot extremely cold and another shot look extremely warm. That's just not gonna work. And yeah, you want to remain consistent throughout the video. Okay, so I'm done color correcting all this footage. Now I'm gonna start color grading, and I like to color grade using a LUT. So if you don't know what LUTs are, it's basically just a preset. Like, that's the easiest way to put it. It's basically just presets, but you can make so much changes when you apply them. So I use different type of LUTs depending on the type of look I want in my videos, but most of my LUTs are from this website. It's called lutify.me. They focus on making LUTs for Hollywood standard, and sadly it does have paid subscription, but don't worry, I will put a couple of links in the description for free LUTs, and you can download them and use them for your video. So normally I like to color grade using adjustment layers. This is because it's gonna help me get that consistent look throughout the video. So this is my personal favorite LUT. It is from lutify.me. What it essentially does, it's basically a teal and orange LUT, but it focuses on the skin tones and the shadows. I still want to make a couple of changes because I feel like the shadows are too blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the intensity slightly. So go back to our panel, Let's bring the saturation up so we can really get that skin tone out, and let's bring the temperature up a bit more. Okay, so this is what your footage looks like if you just apply a lot and don't do color correction. And once you apply some color correction, you're gonna really make the most out of the LUT. So I'm gonna search for an effect called letterbox, and what it does is it kind of creates that wide type of feeling in your video, and that's going to help you guys a lot when you really want a cinematic video. Okay, so it's looking pretty cinematic already, and what I want to do now is add a couple of sound effects. Now this is a topic of itself, and I want to make a separate video on this because I feel like most people tend to forget the importance of sound effect in creating cinematic videos, and I want to make a separate video on that. So I'm gonna play a video right now. It's basically the intro of the song, and I'm just gonna play it with the sound effects so you guys can kind of see it for yourself, the importance of sound design when you're trying to create a cinematic environment. So that's pretty much it. Now all that's left to do is to export your video. I know you're probably thinking this tutorial went so fast, and yeah, I did skip a lot of things that you possibly need to create a video. I will be doing a lot of tutorials in the future, and if you have a specific effect or any of the video that you want to learn, then please do let me know. So that is pretty much it for this video. I'll see you next Wednesday again, and it's probably going to be another vlog. And yeah, if you want more tutorials, please do let me know. And till then, I'll see you soon.